Podcast Network Asia.
First Metrosec is providing this podcast as a general market commentary. Reference to any specific security, product, or entity do not constitute as an offer or a solicitation of an offer to buy or sell any financial instruments or to participate in any particular trading strategy. The statements, comments, views, or opinions expressed by the hosts are subject to change without notice, and First Metrosec is under no obligation to update, amend, change, or correct any of the statements, comments, views, or opinions expressed. The statements, comments, views, and opinions expressed by the guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the view of First Metrosec. First Metrosec disclaims any liability arising from reliance on or reference to any information obtained in this podcast.
You are listening to First Metro Securities Philippine Stock Market Weekly Podcast, where we feature timely and relevant discussions on the Philippine stock market and the economy, in the hope of providing you investing and trading guidance. Here's your host.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the FundSmart Learning Series podcast. I'm JP Billones, your guide to the world of investing here at First Metro Securities. I'm both a market educator and the business development section head for Mindanao. I'm passionate about helping Filipinos navigate the financial markets. At First Metro Securities, we believe knowledge is power. That's why we're all about making investing accessible and easy to understand, especially if you're just starting out. We want to equip you with the tools and strategies you need to make informed investment decisions and reach your investment goals. Whether you're a seasoned investor or a complete beginner, this podcast is for you. We'll cover everything from the basics of investment funds to actionable tips for building a strong portfolio. Joining us today as our esteemed guest speaker is the one and only Mr. Carlo T. Abad. He is a dynamic and agile veteran in the banking and financial industry for the past 15 years. Carlo has provided investment and wealth advice to retail, high net worth individuals, and corporate clients throughout the Philippines. Currently, he is a business development manager for Atram Trust Corporation, the first standalone trust corporation in the Philippines and the first to launch a complete range of feeder funds in the Philippines. This enables Filipinos to access offshore investments in global markets. Carlo holds a master's degree in industrial economics from the University of Asia and the Pacific. He was a certified SEC fixed income salesman and certified investment solicitor. He is a certified individual para administrator, certified treasury professional, and certified trust practitioner. So grab your headphones, get ready to learn, and let's embark on this investment adventure together. We'll be dropping valuable insights and actionable strategies throughout this episode. So get your notepads ready and prepare to become an empowered investor. Hello, Sir Carlo. How are you doing these days?
JP, a great day to you and to all the listeners. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting Atram Investments to this podcast.
Great. And we're happy that you accepted our invitation, Sir Carlo.
Anytime.
Let's start things off. Can you tell us a bit about your journey in the world of investments and what led you to specialize in investment funds?
JP, it's very interesting. There was really no compelling reason for me to begin my investment journey. I specifically remember it was June or July 2010 that I was working in a bank back then. I decided just to try a UITF, two of them actually, an equity fund and a balanced fund. You know, it's very interesting because the market at that time was at 3,500. The PSEI at that time was at 3,500. That year ended, it was around 3,800. So you can just imagine my excitement that in a matter of 6-7 months, my money grew by that much. And ever since then, it's tickled my fancies. I've become very interested in the world of investments until I decided finally to make a career out of it. So I transferred banks. I underwent all the trainings, all the certifications that you so nicely mentioned earlier. Until now, it's 2024, and I have been advising people about investments for the longest time already.
Great, Sir Carlo. And considering you started when the PSEI was way back in 3,500, it goes to show to you the power of investing in equities. As of today, we are currently hovering around the 6,600 level. So, yeah.
At what point,
So
na,
goes to show
JP,
really-
that was at 9,100 a few weeks before the pandemic happened. Eh. So from 3,500 to 9,100, ang laki na nun.
Yeah, that's
More than
almost
double.
triple. Yeah, I agree, Sir Carlo. And it's nice to have you as a guest speaker this afternoon to share your insights with your wealth of experience when it comes to the investment world. Now, talking about your experience, Sir Carlo, what are your common misconceptions that you see Filipinos have about investment funds?
Well, the first misconception that I hear a lot from people, from Filipinos about investments is, mahal yan. Wala akong perang pang-invest. My income is just enough for me to, it's just enough for my monthly expenses. Wala na akong extra na pang-invest. But the way to counter that negative perception is that investments kasi, your future has to be part of what you are spending on now. Kasi JP, sa trabaho natin, we're not selling investments. We're not offering investments. We're actually selling them the opportunity to have a better financial future. So in the industry right now, it's very, very easy. It's very accessible now more than when I started investing. Kasi when I started investing in 2010, I literally had to fall in line in the bank and fill out so many forms to open that investment fund. Pero now you can do it 24/7, anytime, using your mobile phone. The wealth of knowledge is out there. The access is there. It's much, much cheaper to be able to invest now compared to before. And you don't have to be rich to start investing. You don't have to be rich to be investing. In fact, that's what you do to become rich. Yung misconception na, hindi, yung investing pang mayayaman lang yan. Hindi eh, because doon ka yayaman sa pag-i-invest mo.
I agree, Sir Carlo. And I myself can also share an experience with that. As when I started to ask about investing, that time you really had to go to the bank in order to access those investment funds. And the first time I asked about investments, the minimum was 100,000 pesos. Syempre, during that time, meron akong 100 pero wala akong 100,000. So, buti na lang through time, it has actually become more accessible, no, and more inclusive. So I saw it go down from 100,000 to 50,000, naging 25,000, tapos naging 10,000, tapos naging 5,000, and right now through First Metro Securities, many of the funds, even those offered by Atram, you can actually invest for as low as 1,000 pesos.
Pero mo, JP, no? What's your reason for not investing? Kung nakakapag plan 1799 ka sa iyong mobile plan para magkaroon ka ng unlimited Facebook, Twitter at TikTok, why can you not allocate 1,000 pesos for your financial future, di ba? It's very cheap now to start investing.
Yeah, totally agree with that, Sir Carlo. I also encountered this, and some people saying nga na, for example, if you can afford to spend that much on your phone plan, 1799, but the amount that you invest is actually less than that, then you're probably hustling backwards. So that's something that our listeners might take as a nugget of wisdom. Now, Sir Carlo, itong mga misconceptions probably tell us that many Filipinos are really not yet familiar with investment funds. So to set the stage for our discussion in this episode, can you share to our listeners what they are and how they work?
Okay, kasi when you say investment funds, big word. But in actuality, an investment fund is just like a pooled fund. So, for example, there are 100 of us in this room right now. Each one of us will contribute, as you said, 1,000 pesos into a pool, into a pot. And then what will happen to that pot is that it will get invested by the fund manager. Yung fund manager na po yung bahala mag-invest where he thinks the market will go depending on the risk profile or the kind of fund that the clients are invested in. So it offers you the advantage of being able to just sit down and not do anything and let the fund manager or the trust corporation do the investing for you. As far as it's very cheap to invest. Sabi mo nga, some investment outlets are just as low as 1,000 pesos. It's very cheap. You let the fund manager do all the work and you can monitor your investments anytime, 24/7 with just your phone or your laptop. So what happens is instead of you investing directly to stocks or bonds, since hindi naman tayo lahat mayaman, we will pool our money together and then we will get equitable shares or if it grows by 10%, for example, in a matter of 2 years. So each of us will be getting that 10% also. So that's how investment fund works. Para siyang paluwagan to our audience right now if they're more familiar with it. Each one contributes and then that pot of money gets invested somewhere and then whatever gains or losses for that matter in that pot of money or investments are equitably shared among all investors to that fund.
Those are really great insights, Sir Carlo. And from that, what I can get from that is that it enables everyday who wants to actually invest indirectly in investments that would have been difficult if they were going to do it on their own, especially for beginners if they're still learning how to make the most of the financial markets, looking for opportunities out there. I really think investment funds or UITFs are a really good starting point for Filipinos. Now,
one of the biggest advantages of investment funds, actually it's the biggest advantage, is diversification. With your 1,000 pesos to begin in your investment journey, you're able to invest in a wide array of securities. Kasi kung dediretso ka dun sa Philippine Stock Exchange, for example, with your 1,000 pesos, baka tawanan ka lang nila because it can barely buy anything. And even if it buys you something, you can only buy one particular stock or two particular stocks. But if you course your 1,000 pesos to an investment fund, automatically you get exposure to as much companies as possible, as much securities as the fund is invested in, because it's a pot of money from other investors also. So yung 1,000 pesos mo, para na din siyang 10 million kasi it's able to access all of these securities that are available to an investor.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Sir Carlo. And for example, of course, adding to that, it's like, for example, if you were just starting out with, let's say, 1,000 or 5,000 pesos, though there are really stocks out there that you can buy at those levels, but looking on a portfolio perspective, like let's say with your 5,000 pesos, you buy one or two companies with that minimum amount. On a portfolio perspective, it's not that your risk is with those two companies and you're not that diversified enough. So it's really good to start with UITFs, more so if you're still beginner when it comes to investing in the market.
Correct.
Now, talking about the risk, Sir Carlo, how can Filipinos assess their risk profile in order to pick the right UITFs for their investment goals?
JP, one of your first questions kanina was misconceptions about investing. No? And I guess another misconception is that very risky yan, investments yan, very risky. But we would like to believe that the risks that you take when you enter into an investment fund is very calculated. the best way for the fund manager and the client, actually, and the potential investor to be able to ensure that yung papasukan na investment ni client is suitable to him is through the client suitability assessment. The client suitability assessment is a requirement kahit saang investment ka pumasok sa Pilipinas. So whether it's through First Metro, or you want to be investing in through a bank or through a trust corporation or even through insurance, one of the requirements is a client suitability assessment. The results of the client suitability assessment, number one, walang tama at mali doon. It tells you what kind of investor you are. Kasi the questions there is, how long can you be invested? What will happen? How do you feel if the investment goes down by 5%? What is your experience in investing? What is your objective in investing? Questions like that. It will help you determine what kind of risk taker are you as far as investments are concerned. And it will help your financial advisor determine the products that are suitable for you, given your profile. So, for example, if it turns out that you are a conservative investor, which, by the way, there's nothing wrong with being a conservative investor, tapos yung i-offer sa'yo is an aggressive stock fund, stock index fund, pag ganun yung nangyari, naglolokohan lang tayo. So, the results of the client suitability assessment ensures that the right product is offered to you given your individual profile. Because JP, what I always tell my clients, the best investment for Juan is not the best investment for Pedro. Because investing is very unique and personal given the personal circumstances of the investor. For example, you and me, for example, we're in different life stages, my friend. So you might be a little more aggressive compared to me, but I may be more aggressive than my parents, for example. So these are the dynamics that will be documented in the client suitability assessment. Requirement yun. Kaya kapag sa mga nakikinig, kung kayo po ay pinag-i-invest tapos wala pong client suitability assessment, magdalawang isip po kayo.
Yeah, that's really good guidance, Sir Carlo. And when to our listeners, you would know if you're talking to a real professional if they do the client suitability assessment. So, medyo red flag talaga yun pag walang client suitability assessment. And usually we get asked by the question like, ano ba talaga ang magandang investment, no? Sometimes they only think about returns, but the client suitability assessment will actually tell you what is the appropriate fund for you. Because those funds that probably have high potential returns, you might not be comfortable with the risk associated with that type of fund. So thank you for sharing that, Sir Carlo. Now, since we discussed about the professionals, no? So some Filipinos might have concerns about the legalities of UITFs. Can you address these concerns and maybe share to our listeners the regulatory environment when it comes to these funds?
UITFs in particular are regulated by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. And if you are a banker right now, if there are bankers who are listening, you would know how very stringent and strict the rules are of the Bangko Sentral is. In whatever department of bank you are in and all, but as far as UITFs are concerned, the top priority is really the investor. So all the rules were created to protect the welfare of the investor. And at the end of the day, when push comes to shove, the interests of the investor will really be of top priority, whether that's from the perspective of the regulators in the Bangko Sentral or to the trust corporation or trust department bank that offers the UITF. So as far as comfort level is concerned, I would like to reassure our listeners that before that fund is offered to you, dumaan na yan sa very, very stringent process from the conceptualization to what is the underlying investments there, how it will be computed, and all of these things. bago pa umabot sa yan, madami ng pinagdaanan niya.
Yes, and that's how really that's where BSP comes in because they are the regulating bodies for UITFs. And of course, they also want to protect the investors. Now, for different types of investors, one of the things that they actually ask UITFs or sales personnel is that how liquid are these investment funds? Let's say I need the cash. No? How easy is it for investors to get their money back out of the UITFs compared to other investment options?
But JP, naiintindihan ko yan. Especially for Filipinos, there is really a need to have access to funds kapag may emergencies and all of that. That's why we espouse having an emergency fund. Now, to answer your question, how liquid are these investment funds? It's as easy as just telling the institution where you're invested in that I need the funds. I will need to redeem my funds. Now, syempre, hindi naman yan deposit product na parang lalabas na lang sa ATM yung funds. Of course, the fund manager will still have to sell the underlying securities and all of these things. So you will be receiving your money, the market value of your investment, depending on when you made the decision to redeem, between 1 day until 8 days for dollar funds, for example, or even shorter than that. So as far as liquidity is concerned, you can take it out anytime. But for you to have access to the cash, it will take at least a day for you to be able to have access to it.
That's good to hear, Sir Carlo. And if I'm not mistaken, Sir Carlo, I think this liquidity part of the UITF wherein the investors can actually decide to redeem his or her shares anytime they like is actually backed by a law. Is that correct, Sir Carlo?
Yes, it's under the rules of each individual fund. They are supposed to pay you out when you give the instructions to redeem after an X number of days, depending on the kind of fund. JP, balikan ko lang. I think something interesting about UITFs and mutual funds and other investment funds also is that they're open-ended funds. So wala siyang maturity date, unlike time deposit funds and all of that. Unlike a corporate bond, for example, or a RTB, retail treasury bond, retail treasury bill. So you can invest now. Let's say it's January 1 right now. If you want to redeem it on January 7, no problem. If you want to redeem it 20 years from now, no problem also. You can be invested for as long as you can, as long as you want, rather. And you can also redeem your funds as early as the next day.
Yeah, that's good to know for our listeners, Sir Carlo. And now talking about, of course, sir, these UITFs are actually professionally managed. So are there fees involved when it comes to investing in UITFs?
There are management and trust fees for UITFs. It ranges from 0.25% to maybe 1.5-2%, depending on the asset class you're investing in. Of course, the more complicated the investment is, the higher the trust and management fee is for that. But the good thing about it is the price every day is already net of all those taxes and fees. So if the market value of your investment is 110,000 pesos, yun yung matatanggap mo when you make a redemption, because you will no longer have to pay taxes and fees because bayad na siya in the daily prices. So don't worry so much about computing for taxes and fees because it's already embedded in the prices. Now, I think something interesting also to note is that the fees have been going down over the past how many years? Now, I remember, yung sabi ko nga, way back in 2010, the fees for UITFs and MFs were around 2.5-3%. But now the lowest is at 0.25%. So the competition among the banks and trust corporations and investment managers have pushed the fees down, again, to the benefit of the investor.
That's a good update from your field, Sir Carlo. And it's nice, of course, these fees have actually impact on the investment returns. But personally, I think high fees, it's okay as long as the performance of the fund also performs well. And of course, there are really some investment asset classes that needs further research. That's why there are funds that have higher fees. Some funds have lower fees, like actively managed funds relatively have higher fees than passively managed funds. But again, when you factor in your decisions, you can try to ask yourself if those fees is already okay with you if you're going to compare doing it by yourself. So maybe the fees in the UITFs is small enough compared if you're going to do it on your own.
That's
I
right.
agree with that, Sir Carlo.
It's because the fund manager is doing everything for you already. All you have to do is just sit back, relax, and enjoy as you see your investments grow or sometimes goes down. But we're talking about the long term anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that, Sir Carlo. And now talking about fees, Sir Carlo, let's say an investors would like bought UITFs at 1 peso per share. Then after a long period of time of investing in it, it went to 5 pesos per share.
Ooh.
When they redeem the UITF units, let me correct that. That's a distinction between mutual funds and UITFs. Mutual funds are in shares, UITFs are in units.
Yep.
Now, let's say they redeem at 5 pesos per share. The profit or the difference from 1 to 5, the 4 pesos, is that subject to tax?
Not anymore, my friend, because when you say 5 pesos, nakaneto na dyan lahat ng taxes and fees. So you will enjoy your growth of, what's that, 400%? They're no longer subject to tax.
Ayan, that's really good news for all of the investors in UITFs. Now, when a person decides to invest in UITFs, as a expert in this field, Sir Carlo, for being in the industry for a very long time, what are some strategies that you can recommend, especially to the beginners?
Partner, whenever I'm asked this, dalawa lang ang sagot ko. Number one, if when you invest, you have to invest early. Because the earlier you invest, the more time you have to enjoy the ups and downs of the market. So invest early. The second is invest regularly. Investing is not a one-time thing. Investing is a discipline that you have to do regularly, whether that's quarterly, whether that's annually, whether that's monthly, it doesn't matter, but you have to do it on a regular basis. This will ensure that whether the market is up or whether the market is down, I will be putting in something for my future. I will be putting something in to contribute to my retirement fund, for example, to contribute to the college fund of my kid, to my home fund, pambili ko ng bahay 10 years from now. So, invest early and invest regularly. Now, sometimes kasi, and I understand this, investing might take a toll to some Filipino families. But the thing is, eventually, maybe sa umpisa, masakit yung 1,000 every month. But as the months go by, you will see that it becomes part of your lifestyle already. That, oops, at the back of your head, you know that you will be investing 1,000 pesos on the 15th of the month. So the discipline will come because you'd be surprised how much your funds have grown through the years. So just to summarize it up, invest early and invest regularly, whether the market is up or down. Sometimes investing is a calculated risk. Just do it for the discipline of it.
That's really great insight, Sir Carlo. And I myself, I agree with that. And if I were to add on to what you said, for me, the way I think about investing, iniisip ko siya parang contribution ko to PhilHealth or SSS. Yung tipong even before I receive my salary, fortunately, First Metrosec has a auto-invest feature which we call a voluntary investment program. I highly recommend that you consider that option wherein you can actually automate your investing process. And when you automate things, it ensures that you won't forget it. Now think about it like your PhilHealth or your SSS. I think more applicable for SSS because you're contributing to that monthly, tapos it will give you a benefit upon retirement. And that's something you can do as well with Atram, to have that mindset na tinatanggal na siya sa sahod ninyo before you spend a single peso.
That's actually one development also over the past few years. The automation of investment. Right now, Filipinos are now able to automatically invest. So pagpasok ng sweldo nila, automatically a portion of it gets taken out already for investments. Para hindi na siya nagagalaw.
Yeah, and I think that's the key word, Sir Carlo, yung hindi na siya nagagalaw. Kasi sometimes, as human beings, no, we tend to have some, we are really we're wired to be lousy handlers of money, because spending money has some emotional aspect to it, as we feel nice when we spend on stuff. But you have to understand that all our expenses is another person's income. So when you have that perspective, you might consider saving and investing some of your hard-earned money for your future financial goals. Now, we discussed about technology just about now and the developments in the industry. Can you share, Sir Carlo, how can Filipinos leverage on online platforms like sa FundSmart ni First Metrosec that they can conveniently invest in UITFs offered by Atram?
When I first started investing, the experience is that you had to go to a bank branch, fall in line, only to find out that hindi pala yun yung line if you want to invest. So you will be seated, you will be given all of these account opening forms, and then you have to fill it out manually by hand. And by the time masubmit mo siya, you would have taken already 1 hour, 1.5 hours, maybe even 2 hours, depending on how long the line is. But now, through First Metro, through FundSmart, you don't even have to go out of your house. Kahit nakapambahay ka lang, just get your phone. You can fill out the forms there, and then you can choose the fund that you want to invest in. And the good thing about First Metro also is that they ensure that you know what kind of fund you are entering into. So you will be asked to read the fundamentals of that fund so that you will be able to make an informed decision. And not only that, I think one of the advantages also is that you have access to all of these webinars, seminars that are conducted online. And I believe they're recorded in a Spotify podcast series or in YouTube. Correct me if I'm wrong, JP. And everything that you need to know about investing is there. It's accessible 24/7. Again, kahit nakapambahay ka, you would be able to do it. And the minimum investment through First Metro is also much lower compared to some institutions out there that offer UITFs as well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Sir Carlo. Now, talking about options, Sir Carlo, can you share to our listeners, for Filipinos who want to use UITFs to invest not just locally, probably many of our clients are invested in local equities, but we have some clients who also ask if there's an opportunity to invest in the global markets. Do Atram have funds available that enables them to do so?
Partner, that's where Atram comes into the picture. Atram is the first to offer feeder funds and has the widest array of global feeder funds available in the Philippine market right now. Noon kasi, if you wanted to invest, for example, in the US or in Europe or in developing Asia, for example, you will have to go there to be able to access their investment funds. So what Atram did is, no, that shouldn't be the experience of Filipinos. Let's bring all of the biggest global fund managers to the Philippines. So in Atram, all our feeder funds are available in the FundSmart list. Also, you will have access to global funds, whether that's the US, Europe, Asia, and all of these things, for a minimal amount of investment as well. You don't have to shell out $100,000 for that. For as low as $100, you would be able to invest as well. The key that Atram and First Metro has done together is that it has provided access to the Filipino to be able to access the investments out there that are performing well globally.
Yeah, and we'd like to thank Atram for giving our clients here at First Metrosec the ability to invest in the global markets. And talking about options again, Sir Carlo. Kasi for example, like right now, no, I've been investing for the past 6, 7 years already. And one thing I realized in my journey as of this moment is that I had this home country bias because when I looked at my
Correct.
total portfolio, I realized just recently that I'm fully invested in the Philippines. And I thought, why not take advantage of the opportunities in the global markets as well? Now, maybe Sir Carlo, can you share to our listeners maybe one or two funds that of Atram that is invested in the global markets? Can you share or highlight some?
JP, don't get me wrong. Investing in the Philippines is good. The Philippine growth story is intact. The long-term growth story of the Philippines is there. But I think Filipinos are also missing out on investing on the opportunity to invest globally. So I think one of the flagship funds that we have as far as the global investments are concerned is the Atram Global Multi-Asset Income Feeder Fund. Now, it's a big word. Ulitin ko lang, it's the Atram Global Multi-Asset Income Feeder Fund. It provides you access to a diversified set of investments in the US, Europe, Asia, and all of these things. And the good thing about this is historically, you also receive regular quarterly payouts. I think the last payout was around 6.5%-7% per annum. So it's divided by 4. But year to date, as far as the NAVPO is concerned, it's already grown by almost 6%. So tumataas na nga yung value ng investment mo, and then every quarter may natatanggap ka pa. So it gives you the capital appreciation that we are looking for. It also gives you the regular stream of income that you might be looking at, and the liquidity as well, because you can take it out anytime. Tapos it's just something that a lot of Filipinos are not very familiar with, but it's available with Atram and First Metro.
Wow, that's a really amazing investment outlet, Sir Carlo. And I think that's really good for Filipinos who prioritize regular income. And maybe it's a really good fit for people who like to receive some level of, I'd say, dividends from one of their investments.
Yes.
And this is quite new. I think probably quite new for Filipinos, as I think most mutual funds or UITFs, most of them are really there just for appreciation. Buy the fund at 1 peso, sell it at 5 pesos. But I think Atram Global Multi-Asset is one of the few funds that has this kind of feature that it's designed to provide regular income.
It's very, very unique, actually, and it's a great development in the trust industry in the Philippines.
Yeah, and we're happy that Atram actually allowed clients to have that kind of exposure. Now, Sir Carlo, taking one step further our discussion, now we have some clients who actually have, let's say, they have buying power in their First Metrosec platform.
Mhm.
And their buying power, they're just letting it sit there because they have yet to find opportunities in the stock market or in their direct investments in stocks. Now, for clients with excess cash, Sir Carlo, do you have an investment outlet that you can recommend to park those cash to make it earn a bit?
There is the money market fund that is also available in First Metro. Instead of you putting it in an investment right away while you're waiting, you can just put it in the money market fund, let it sit there. It will earn you potentially higher than it being in an ordinary savings account in the bank. So while you position yourself, while you wait for an opportunity, you can park it there first. That's how I normally position it to my clients. It's a parking facility. Lagay mo lang dyan kahit paano, kikita ka pa na mas malaki compared to a deposit account rather. And then when you see the opportunity, already, you can just simply take it out from the money market fund and then invest it in the equity fund or in the bond fund, depending on the fund that you are actually looking at. But that's a very good strategy also, putting excess funds or uninvested funds in a money market fund. Kasi kahit pa paano, you'll still earn a little higher compared to a savings account.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that strategy, Sir Carlo. And I guess a little bit of earning is much better than no earning at all.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wala nang libre ngayon.
And I think money market is a really good parking facility because it's considered as a low risk investment. Of course, you don't expect high returns from that. You expect to earn low returns. But again, when it comes to how the fund moves, you can look at the NAV of the chart and you can see how stable it is when it comes to its incremental growth. Now, talking about that, Sir Carlo, what can you share your outlook for the market this 2024?
Oh, okay. Just I do not want to bore our listeners right now with sophisticated market outlooks, but what we see is that 2024 will be a better year than 2023. Now, I'm not saying that 2023 was a bad year. In fact, it was better than what others portray it to be. But regardless, I think 2024 will be a better year for investments. We expect the stock market to reach 7.3 at the base case. And this is driven by the fact that continued recovery of the Philippine economy. And we saw that despite us having a very, very hot summer, El Nino's effects wasn't as bad as what was expected. So that's a plus thing. We expect interest rates to go down soon. The thing is, when interest rates go down, JP, it encourages people to borrow more money, to businesses, for example, to borrow more money to expand their businesses. It encourages people to borrow money para housing loan na sila, makapagpatayo ng bahay. So good things happen when interest rates go down. We expect that to happen towards the third, fourth quarter of this year. And at the end of the day, it's really the old story of OFW remittances, BPOs, the young demographics of the Filipino that will continue to propel the Philippine economy moving forward. It will be a better year for both bonds and stocks. But if I was a betting man, I would put my money on stocks because it's very, very cheap right now. Personally, I think it's not in the level that it's supposed to be in. It should be higher already. So that might be something exciting for stock investors who start now over the next 2 or 3 years.
Thank you for sharing that outlook, Sir Carlo. Now, considering that outlook, sir, can you share to our listeners what asset class? You said already stocks and bonds could be things that could outperform. So, do you have funds available? What Atram UITFs are available in FundSmart to make the most of that outlook?
Right now, I am very excited about Philippine equities. I am personally putting a lot of my finances in Philippine equities. The investing regularly part is there. For our listeners, you can consider the Atram Philippine Equity Smart Index Fund. Year to date, it grew by almost 4% already as of towards the end of May. But again, the compelling point about this fund is not how it's performed previously, but rather the prospect for the fund moving forward over the next 2-3 years. Now, it's a stock fund, so you should be having a 5-7 year investment horizon for this. But I think over the next 2 to 3 years, for the lack of a better term, JP, magic will happen for the Philippine stock fund, Philippine Stock Exchange, rather.
All right. Thank you for sharing those funds available through FundSmart. And I hope our listeners can take advantage of that based from your outlook. All right, Sir Carlo, all throughout this episode, we have discussed various funds of Atram that's available through FundSmart. Now, for investors who are looking to ride opportunities in specific themes or maybe specific industries, do you have available funds for them?
Yes, there are a lot of interesting sectors or themes out there that are available. One of them is the Atram Global Technology Feeder Fund. The year-to-date return as of May 21 is almost 15% already. Now, the reason why I am excited about this is because of the pandemic, every one of us all around the world had no choice but to become techie. If I asked you 5, 6 years ago to open a Zoom webinar, Zoom room, you probably would think, now, what is Zoom? You're crazy, Carlo. What are you talking about? But now everyone is an expert in Zoom. Everyone watches through Netflix. Everyone is familiar to how to operate a laptop, use your mobile phone, etc. So global technology over the past how many years has flourished as far as an investment outlet is concerned. And it will continue to do so over the next few years because as technology is evolving, maybe over the past few years, it's more on information technology and all of these things. But the future of global technologies can be on the side of transportation or healthcare, communication. So there is a lot of opportunity in global technology that you can ride on. Another theme, another kind of fund thematic fund that may be interesting to some of our listeners right now is in the field of the financial industry. Right now, the Atram Global Financials Feeder Fund has provided returns of 20.30% year to date. This is as of May 21. So ibig sabihin, if you invested 100,000 pesos at the beginning of the year, right now, you would have earned already 20,000 pesos, more than 20,000 pesos. There's a lot of opportunity as far as the financial industry is concerned. And this is a global fund. So maybe our listeners might be interested to look into that as well.
Thank you for sharing that, Sir Carlo. And I hope we have specific listeners who will check out funds by Atram for their specific needs, whatever those thematic funds are. Now, that has been incredibly informative, Sir Carlo. Now, to cap off our presentation, can you share some final words of advice for Filipinos considering investing in UITFs?
It's something I've mentioned earlier and I will mention again, and I will not stop informing my clients, when you start investing, you have to do it early and you have to do it regularly. It's only then that you would be able to find some sort of semblance of investment success when you start investing early and when you start investing regularly. Yes, diversify your funds. It's always there. Try to adjust depending on where the market is. Talk to financial advisors who are after your welfare. And, there's also a wealth of knowledge out there. YouTube, TikTok, there are Facebook pages, there are ebooks, there are books, there are face-to-face seminars, and all of these opportunities out there. So also, I think the best investment is for you to learn about these things so that you would be more able, you will be enabled further to propel your investment journey. So yeah, I think enjoy the journey. It's not always positive. There will be times na magkakamot ka ng ulo na ano ba tong pinasok ko? But be comforted by the fact that the fund manager or the investment company is after your benefit. At the end of the day, we all want Filipinos to have a good financial future, and institutions like Atram and First Metro definitely will be your partners for that.
Thank you so much for sharing those wealth of insights, Sir Carlo. For our listeners, that's all for today. Thank you for joining us in this learning journey. We hope you'll stick around for upcoming podcast episodes and maybe even join us for our webinars or events. Stay tuned, stay safe, and happy investing. Here in First Metro Securities, it's #YourFutureFirst. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for listening to First Metro Securities Philippine Stock Market Weekly podcast. Don't forget to follow us to get first dibs on our new episodes. For more up-to-date market news and info, exclusive content, and the opportunity to connect with your fellow Filipino investors and traders, join facebook.com/groups/FirstMetroSec and be part of the First MetroSec family.
The views and opinions expressed by the podcast creators, hosts, and guests do not necessarily reflect the official policy and position of Podcast Network Asia, the hosts of the program, or other programs of the network. Any content provided by the people on the podcast are of their own opinion and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything.